Hi, this is AJ, and welcome to the Handyman process. This is lesson 4 in my series of the simple path to Handyman. In lesson number 3, I went over kind of the Handyman framework, this graphic that you see in the background here, the primary processes, supporting processes, and foundational systems. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and check that video out where I explain the overall process or framework that I use in my Handyman business. And what I mentioned as I concluded that last video is that I was going to start to break down each of the pieces of that framework and discuss them, the importance of them, and do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. So I'm kind of start off with probably mostly the foundational systems that I believe you need to have in place as we move forward in the lesson. So stay tuned. Okay. So what I've highlighted down here in the bottom here is insurance. And when I'm talking insurance, I'm talking specifically liability insurance as it pertains to your business. I believe this to be probably one of the most foundational things that every business should have before you really do anything else. If you start working at somebody else's house, the first thing you should have in place is insurance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have, how I use it, how I got it, and how you can do a little bit of research on your own. So the first thing I recommend is doing a little bit of research. A lot of people will ask, "Well, what are you paying for insurance? What are you paying?" And insurance is one of those things where it's individual specific, right? It depends on age, income, what kind of work you're doing. So don't necessarily compare your prices with other people's prices. Compare your quotes with different people that provide insurance products, and then figure out where you want to go from that. But with that being said, I'm going to fly over to just an open source system that I think is a pretty good source for information. I'm not affiliated with them, even though I do have my insurance through them. I'm not getting compensated by in this video. I'm just using it as a teaching tool. So stay tuned. So what I'm looking at here is this is Next Insurance. This is the insurance that I use. For my business, my handyman business, I have a $2 million liability policy that I pay about 56,000 or 56 dollars a month for $2 million worth of liability insurance. Keep in mind, I'm a solo operator. I don't go up and do high jobs. I'm older, more mature, however you want to call it. So that's how it reflects for my business. Again, your business may be a little bit different, but I want to talk about some of the basic pieces of insurance, why they're important. Then you have to evaluate it from your business's perspective, whether these things make sense. So if you go to this site, nextinsurance.com business, I'll put this link in the bottom, but go to Handyman Insurance. They've kind of done some of the homework for you up front to say, hey, these are the different things that we offer. And then as you start to scroll down there, they'll cover general liability, workers' comp, E&O, tools and equipment, and other kind of coverages. So as I scroll down, you'll have some things here where you can get an instant quote. I recommend that you do that. But as we come down, the first thing that I believe everybody should have, without exception, is the general liability policy. And what that pays for is medical payments. If God forbid something happens, you're on site in a job and you cause physical harm to somebody, there's medical payments, there's property damage, there's legal fees and judgments. One one confusing thing that people who don't get insurance maybe say, well, I have an LLC, I don't need insurance. And an LLC is a limited liability company, which is kind of a legal separation of your assets from the business's assets. So it's different. It's not really an insurance product. It's a risk mitigation process, but they're separate things. So don't get caught in that. If you have an LLC, you're covered. You still need some type of liability insurance. So I recommend at the very least that you have this in place. Be honest with whoever you talk to. And again, I'm not recommending Next, even though I use them. I guess I am recommending them. But I started off with an insurance company called Hiscox initially when I first started off, and then as I got a little further into it, I did a little bit more research, found out Next had better premiums, and I like what I'll talk about in a minute is that I can show my clients my liability certificate very easily. I could just send them a link and they have my liability certificate. In fact, I'll just put a picture here, a screenshot of kind of what that looks like. But that's the first thing I would recommend. Go ahead and get that liability policy in place. Then the second piece here is what they call errors and or emissions. And this is really negligence, right? Or did you do something intentionally or unintentionally just because you didn't know what you were doing? I personally don't have this on my business because I do really small jobs. I don't take on bigger things. But if you're getting into something that's a little bit more intricate, higher end stuff, you may want to consider adding that to your insurance portfolio as well. Moving down the line, you have commercial auto insurance. I don't have commercial auto insurance. I have my insurance through a company called USAA, which is a military affiliated insurance company. And I flat out told them how I use my vehicles for my business, what I do, that I'm part time, and they've assured me that I'm fully covered underneath my personal insurance coverage. Therefore, I don't have commercial auto insurance. However, again, for your particular situation, reach out to whoever you're doing insurance with now. Figure out if you're in the same boat. If not, then you may want to look into commercial auto insurance. Moving down a line, this is a big one if you have workers and if you're doing any type of work for property managers or some other people. I hear this a lot that they're going to require some type of workers compensation insurance package on top of everything else that you have. So go ahead and, if that applies to you, dig through it again, look through it. Uh, Another big one in our industry is the tools and equipment. I run pretty lean. I mean, if I add up all my tools, it's probably thousands of dollars. However, I don't take all my tools on every job. I don't keep everything in the truck at all times. I kind of grab and pick and choose what I need. So again, I don't have insurance on that. I have homeowners insurance that covers a certain amount of stuff. But if I ever did had some seriously expensive equipment, I would probably add that in there as well. Then as I go down the line, you got commercial property stuff and some other things. But go ahead and dig through this, right? Dig through this site, see kind of how it looks, see what's applicable to you. And even if you feel like you're overpaying initially, get it in place, right? Get the insurance in place for a couple reasons. The biggest reason is it's going to protect you from a liability perspective, especially if you have enough coverage. Then second of all, it's going to legitimize you and your business in the eyes of other people. Ironically, hardly anybody ask me it, so they might say, are you insured? And I'll say yes, and that's it, right? They don't ask to see anything else, they just assume. But a lot of my clients never even ask me. Again, as a part-time guy, my numbers are different maybe than yours. If you're doing a ton of work, you may be asked more frequently. But when I am asked, what I do is I just go ahead and send them a picture of my certificate, the picture that I put in there a little bit earlier to show them, yes, this is my liability policy. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. And usually once I send an email, I'm like, okay, this guy's legit. It works out pretty well. So this is, again, lesson 4, insurance and putting it in place for your business. I believe this to be the most important thing after you decide, yeah, I'm going to be a handyman, I'm going to get into this business, is to go ahead and put this in place. So go ahead and figure out what works for you, dig around a little bit, find out a company that works for you, whether it's a local agent, whether it's Next or somebody else, and go ahead and get that layer in place. And then stay tuned as I move further into the framework here, and I start to dig into some of these other categories here. I did speak to, just a little bit of a teaser of what's coming. I spoke to a CPA yesterday who's agreed to kind of sit down and do an interview style. So as we get into tax strategy, bookkeeping, and things of that nature, I'm going to be sitting down with a pretty intelligent and well-experienced CPA who's going to give us a lot of good insight and tips into that. So if you like this kind of content, you think I'm going down the right path, go ahead and let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and stay tuned for the next one. Appreciate it. Bye.